Hey everyone, so this is Alex or PolymomoTea, and today I have a clay FAQ video for you. This video will be all focusing on clay and like random how-tos and how I crafting stuff. So sorry I can't really talk. Yeah, so this video I'm going to show you like different how-tos, like how I keep my clay clean, how I avoid fingerprints, what tools I use and stuff like that. So let's get started. Okay, so for the first question I got a lot was, how do I keep my clay clean? The biggest enemy is using white clay, and when you use white clay, there's dust. You see dust everywhere. It's like clothes. When you wear a white shirt, you see like those stains, like whether it be like a coffee stain or like, oops, I dropped some macaroni on my shirt and now you have a cheese stain on it. What I personally like to do, this is my white clay that I use, and you see that's in a plastic bag, and it's because I mix my white clay with translucent. It makes the clay like smoother feeling. I really can't explain it. I feel that it gives it kind of like this oily, greasy feeling, and it kind of makes the, like, make it less, well, what I feel is that it makes it seem like it sticks to the dust less and a little bit cleaner. When I just use regular white clay, I feel like it just gathers like every single piece of dust and like whatever strands of string and hair it can find and just kind of grabs it in. But when I mix it in with translucent, it seems a little bit less willing to do so. I mean, it's not a scientific or proven fact or anything, it's just how I feel. So I always mix my white clay with translucent, and I just store it in this plastic bag. So number two, what I like to use is tape. I always have a strip of tape, and right before I touch any clay, I just kind of stick my fingers on it. Yeah, you can see my fingerprints very nicely right there. So if like I'm ever a criminal, they could just look and see my fingerprints on my tape to see if it matches. I'm not a criminal though. What that does is obviously it just collects whatever dust or whatever's sticking to your fingers at the time. And especially with like red, greens, yellow clays, you know, it kind of stains your fingers. Just rub it off, and normally it gets a lot of it off. And before I start on any surface, I take a piece of like scrap clay. So this gray is a mixture of maybe like 1,000 different colors. I really like blending colors, and this is just kind of like the leftovers of, I don't know, who knows. But what I like to do is I just kind of rub my surface with this piece of clay, because whether it's going to collect dust or not, it doesn't matter, because if I'm going to use it, I'm going to paint over it. So question number two is, how do I keep my clay from having fingerprints? Well, I don't. Most of my clay things have a lot of fingerprints, and that's only like common because we're humans, we all have fingerprints. Well, most of my clay things actually do have a lot of fingerprints. You just really can't tell because I like to hide it over with like layers of glaze, so you like see the shine and you don't see the fingerprints because the glaze just kind of goes in and, you know, gives that effect, makes it look perfect, but they're not. What you can do is, sometimes I do this, I kind of just rub cornstarch on my fingertips and it makes it dry. And what cornstarch does is it prevents the clay from sticking to your fingers. So when you rub, you can use cornstarch on your fingers and then just kind of rub on the clay or like whatever creation you have. So let's say you have a turtle and it has like all these fingerprints, you could just put a little bit of cornstarch on your fingers and then just kind of rub it over, and it should smooth out without leaving any fingerprints. But cornstarch is pretty messy because once that powder like gets out, it gets everywhere. Another thing is that I like to use really firm clay, and a few other YouTubers have made fun of me for using really hard clay, but I prefer hard clay over soft clay. So I try not to buy the Fimo Soft brand, and it's because I feel like soft clay is more likely to like stick to my fingers and leave those fingerprints, and it's really hard for me to like shape up. So I use like the firm clay because it's a little bit harder, but I can smooth it out, and I can use like a little less, if I hold it like really gently, it's less likely to have fingerprints. Whereas when I use soft clay, like even if I like barely touch it, it'll get every single fingerprint from wherever it touches, you know? So question number three. Okay, question number three is, how do I avoid like darker colors from staining lighter colors? And I feel like this is being really repetitive because I've mentioned this in like my past two questions or answers, but really translucent clay And what I do is I add a little bit of translucent to pretty much every single color I have. And it's because it gives it that oily feeling. And not only does it prevent it from getting dust and fingerprints, but, well, maybe not fingerprints, because it depends. I have really firm, like translucent clay. It's like really rock hard actually, and it crumbles. So I mix it with all my clay to make it a little bit like firmer and less soft. So that's why it gets less fingerprints actually. What I do is I mix translucent clay to every single color pretty much, and I feel like this is like, I'll show you, but it'll stain less, just to like show you kind of like OxyClean commercial style. So I have two pieces of clay. So this one, this is your left side. Yeah, on the left I have regular red clay, and on the right, this one, I have red clay mixed with translucent in a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm just kind of rub my fingers on them, you know, just kind of like you're conditioning them, right? And then I'm gonna rub it, both my fingers, on this piece of paper. Okay, I don't know if you can see that difference. So right here on the right, this is the translucent with the red, and then right here on the left, you see just the regular red. And as you can tell, the stain on the red is more prominent than the one with the translucent red. And this might be a bad example because I rubbed really hard for both, and this might be like a piece of clay right here. But if you want to believe me from this little example OxyClean demonstration ordeal, you can tell that this is a little bit more darker and more prominent, and then the one with translucent is less. And what I found from my experience of clay making is that when I use translucent with my colors, it's less likely to stain, especially colors like white. So question number 4, it's what kind of tools I use when I make my clay things. Tool number 1, or 1 and 2, are these color blenders. And if you see my tutorials, you see me using this color blender especially because it has like this tip and it really blends well, like limbs or heads or whatever. And I have this one because it kind of just like pokes holes, and I can use it for like making eye sockets or just kind of like guiding things. So these are the 2 tools I use. These are called color blenders, and the brand is, oh, it's actually called Color Shapers, my bad, from Royal Sovereign Ltd UK. So the one that I like using, I've never read this before, but this is called a flat chisel, which makes sense because it's chisel shaped. And then this is called a taper point, which also makes sense because it's pointy. And then, so the second tool I use is this dotting tool. And this is the dotting tool that you see a lot of YouTubers using. It's for nail art. What I do is I like using the regular standard size one and then the larger one. The fourth tool is I love using this blade. This is just a regular blade from Michaels, and it's a polymer clay blade. And then fourth tool, it's this. It's a roller. So I have a pasta machine or one of those like clay flat rolling machines, but I realized that I don't really like using it because it's large and it's a thing to like lug around, and it's pretty like high maintenance because you have to clean it for dust and make sure no dust is in there, because if there is, it gets in your clay and everything. So I just like this because you can wipe it down really quickly, and it's portable and small, and all you need to do is just a quick roll and that's it. Questions about my clay. So what brands of clay do I use? I only use 2 brands. I use Fimo and I use Primo. So I normally mix my Primo and Fimo together, so my baking time's a little bit weird. And so that comes with that goes to my 6th question. Sorry, I was looking at my computer to see the questions. And it asks about baking time. A lot of people have trouble with baking time, and I think it's because it has to be specific to the type of oven you use. So some people may have older ovens, and some people may have like high-tech digital ovens. If you have like one of those newer model ovens, I feel like you can just listen to what the clay says, 275 or 230 for like 15 minutes, for 20 minutes, and like extra 15 for every quarter inch or something like that. Me personally, I have a really old oven, and I feel like the dial is like kind of loose. It's a little bit off from like the actual temperatures, So what I personally do is I just kind of bake it for 250 degrees for only 13 minutes. And if it's a bigger creation, like fatter and thicker, I would keep it in for maybe an additional like 4 minutes or 5 minutes. But I check every 1 minute interval because like once a clay thing burns, it turns brown. Like, I don't know, I feel like it just turns brown like immediately, like in one moment. And I just like prefer not to have burnt creation just because, you know, everyone has those struggles. It sucks. And then I quench them, and I saw this off of Lilac Sprinkles, one of her like videos. She just puts it, as soon as she like bakes them and takes them out, she throws them into like a bowl of ice water. And I've been doing that since I watched that video, and I feel like my clay things are very like firm and hard, and like the sound of it just sounds like a rock hitting against another rock, and I love that clacking sound, you know? Okay, so that was my first FAQ video, and I hope you guys kind of got a little bit of a look into how I craft. I was going to show like a how I craft video, like step-by-step process, but that's pretty boring because literally I just watch TV and I just kind of like fiddle away. So yeah, if you have any more questions about how to enclaze, leave in this video and maybe I'll make a second video once I have a lot of questions. But yeah, thanks for watching guys, bye!